Hi, this is Bobby Brown, and welcome to another fucking podcast.
You kids with your loud music and your Dan Fogelberg, your Zima, hula hoops, and Pac-Man video games, don't you see? People today have attention spans that can only be measured in nanoseconds.
See, son, old legends never die. They just lose weight.
It's like a legend and an outer-world bum with a lot of life.
Hello, you crazy dead fucker!
Party time!
Yes, it is party time. Hello, Hollywood. Hello, world. And hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you, and it's always good to be seen. My name is Izzy Presley, and this is Metal Edge Magazine's Another Fucking Podcast. Got a great show for you today. We got Geoff Tate coming up in just 1 second. Of course, you're watching on video. You can see him already. But that takes away from the big, hey, Geoff Tate is here.
Anticlimactic there.
Make sure you guys hit up all the social media at Real Izzy Presley all the way across the board, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course the show page is Another Effing Podcast. And if you go to that show page, you click on that shop now link, you can get the brand new shirts. The Loyal Minion shirts are back. And actually there's tumblers. Somebody bought a tumbler and they're showing it off on Twitter. So that was very cool. My cohort from Metal Edge Magazine, Mr. Paul Gargano.
Hello.
Make sure you hit him up.
Hey, we gotta get those other t-shirts that we spent so much time designing up on there.
Yeah, we got to do that. That might be a good idea.
That's a good idea.
You can get him on Instagram at Paul Gargano, on the Twitter that he does not use at Paul Gargano as well. And of course, at Metal Edge Magazine on the Instagram. And joining us, the man who is one of the voices of 80s metal for sure. And he had one of the glorious mullets, not just in metal, but in all of music. And I give you props. And Geoff, I'm going to actually show you a picture. It's not of you, but it's of me. And I'm going to pull it up in a second, but we know him. Geoff Tate, welcome to Another Fucking Podcast.
Really nice to be here.
All right, here we go.
I had to do that.
Go. No, it's all good. This is I called this Operation Tate Reich. I guess this look you can see in the background. This is a photo shoot.
That's a little rage for order there.
Yeah, it's a little rage for order, I guess. Yeah.
Which one's you, is he?
The one in the middle.
I remember that night with you in Minneapolis.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's funny. It wasn't actually called a mullet until this younger generation labeled it that. It was just called a haircut.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But it was glorious. It was glorious. No doubt about that. Oh yeah. Before we move on, in the words of the great Stone Cold Steve Austin, crack one for the working man. Ah, yeah. Here we go.
Yeah. Coffee for the really working man.
Yeah, absolutely. Geoff, how are you doing, man? How you been holding up through this whole pandemic thing?
Well, it's been a weird time, I guess, for everyone, really, quite an adjustment of psyche, really, and I have to say, for me, it's been a strange thing because I haven't slept in my own bed this long for this amount of days ever, so not being able to travel has really kind of given me a whole different perspective on life. And I'm so grateful for what I have and what I have experienced and the people in my life and all the fans who keep tuning in to what I do. It's really kind of made me take a minute and step back and look at things differently,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of grateful for that in a sense. I'm ready for it to be over, definitely.
Yeah.
And, it looks like it's on the way out now. And I know in America, at least, we're gearing up to head out on the road in about a week and a half now. We start our tour. So that's a long time coming. I'm really looking forward to that. It's been quite an event staying home all this time. But anyway, looks like brighter days on the horizon.
You say you're going to start up the tour. Who's in the band now?
I have Kieran Robertson on guitar. I have Jack Ross on bass, Alex Hart on guitar, and Danny Laverde on drums.
Okay.
Have these guys been with you for previous tours, or is this first time for some of them?
Yeah. Actually, all of them have been with me for the last few years. Yeah, touring with me at various places and around the world. Yeah. Good band. Really energetic. Lots of, man, these guys love to tour and they love to play live. And I love that they love it, you know?
That's got to make it a little bit, especially for you. Is there like a new energy? Like I know Kieran in particular, I know, is there a new energy for you? Like being able to play the songs next to people that it's fresh, it's exciting for them. Does that make it better for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Guys my age, we tend to, I don't know, be less enthusiastic.
It's our age, not your age. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm a lot older than you, Paul. So guys my age, less enthusiastic about hitting the road, right?
Right.
At least for any length of time. But these guys love it. So I'm happy they're here.
When you're putting this band together, and obviously it's like, you know, you're used to the way, you know, a song is written and the people that originally played it. You know, there's a sound, there's a feel. When you were putting this band together, were you trying to find somebody that had that feel and that tone? Because a lot of it's in the hands. You know, you know that you can't replicate what somebody's hands can do. But were you? I'm not a believer
in that.
Okay.
Not at all. No, I think that it can all be replicated. You know, it's all copyable and all doable. It's important to find people with the right perspective who are happy to be there, want to be there, want to tour, want to play, you know, want to live the lifestyle, which is, frankly, it's pretty challenging to live this way. You know, you are in a different place every day. You're constantly moving. And for me, I don't like to take days off. I like to keep it rolling. Right. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people can't hang with that. You know, they get too burnt out, too tired. Right. But so it's good when you find people that have that same belief, you know.
Mm-hmm. Is that better for you vocally to keep it rolling like that than to have days
absolutely. Yeah. A day off or two, and man, you're like, feels like a setback, you know. You want to keep moving, you want to keep your muscles, you know, intact and working. And you know, voice is like a muscle, and it is a muscle. So you got to keep it, you know, working out, right? At least that's my philosophy, and it hasn't failed me yet.
Right.
I think this tour starts with 12 in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So a hell of a way to start. Wow. Now, on this tour, you're doing Empire in its entirety and Rage for Order in its entirety.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fun, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually quite a good time. You know, this is the first time I ever got to play all the songs on the albums. So that's a real treat for me. And then playing Empire in its entirety, 30-year anniversary and all, it's a wonderful thing to look back on it and to appreciate what it is. You know, it's a really good record, and I love playing all the songs. And Rage for Order, I'm simply doing because I want to. I love the record.
Yeah, no.
I love the record.
I've been listening to that record a lot lately, and it's a fantastic record. And it was it's interesting because Izzy said at the start, he said one of the great, you're talking about 80s metal, and it was so weird because I never really categorized you. I think you guys, the 90s were your decade, if anything, because that's when, you know, Empire and Promised Land, like you were in arenas, but like everything was just, you guys were always a little bit off from everybody else. And Rage for Order just had this gothicness to it that I just don't think was happening anywhere else in the metal movement. And that was really awesome. And the album's timeless. It's just absolutely timeless.
Well, it feels that way when I play it. I swear it's, I close my eyes a lot and I'm in 1986, definitely, you know. Then I open my eyes, I look in the mirror, and I realize, no, I'm not.
Do the songs change? Does the way you view the songs change over 30 years? Like, it's more than 30 for Rage, but does a song that you wrote 30 years ago mean something different to you today than it did then?
Yeah, it kind of does. especially on the Empire album, a lot of the subject matter on the album is pretty current to today, really.
Yeah.
There's a pretty powerful song on the album called Della Brown, which is about a homeless woman, and new back in the late 80s, early 90s. And her situation, the homeless situation in general in America is, I'd say it's probably worsened, since then. And it's a huge, huge situation that has no easy answer. But the subject is timeless. It just seems to keep going. That another song on the album, Resistance, is about the ecological issues we're having these days, with human beings impacting the earth in such a negative way that that subject is very timely as well, and still very prevalent in our situation that we're in now with global warming and melting of the ice caps. And I know you're down in LA. You guys have really got hit hard with lack of water and that kind of thing. And even up here in the Northwest, we've had our glaciers melting, which is just unheard of. I've never, ever in my 62 years seen it like that. Mountains without glaciers on them is bizarre, unprecedented, really.
Wow. Was there a point for you when it went from, because Rage, the earlier stuff was much more metal thematically, and then it kind of you got much more. You started looking at culture, I think, a little bit differently. You started looking at people differently sociologically. Was there a shift for you when you changed your approach to writing lyrics and writing? Did that happen somewhere in there, or do you think it was just a natural evolution?
Yeah, I think it's just a natural evolution of travel, going to other places and, being aware of other situations besides your own, kind of opens your eyes to new subject matter, new topics, other interests that you never knew you had, suddenly you have. And also I think it's a bit of maturity, I mean, I love metal as a genre. It's fascinating in how it is so insular, but in some ways it's very basic in what the lyrics are regarding most metal music. It deals with rage, right?
Yeah.
And it deals with being an outcast or not fitting in easily into society. But a lot of it's angry, and after a few albums of the anger, you kind of work through some of that stuff, and so what do you write about then? What is interesting to, well, for me, it's our social situation, how we react to each other, how we deal with each other. And it's tricky writing a song with lyrics about something like that, but giving it the heavy guitar treatment, Right. Does it really fit, or is it so weird that nobody can relate to it, And then you start questioning, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, right. Well, it's weird too, is because when you guys were breaking, I mean, everything that was popular was like, dude, everything was about pussy and drugs, and you guys totally went away from that. You kind of did your own thing.
We never were about that. Yeah, we never dabbled in that kind of topic, really. Yeah, we were into different stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kyle in the chat room is going to see you in Phoenix on October 4th, and he says Queensrÿche, also known as the Thinking Man's Metal Band. Oh, got a point.
I think Paul came up with that slogan, didn't you, Paul? Somewhere back in the...
I was about to say, I think that was a Metal Edge article title.
Yeah.
around Y2K.
Hey, it stuck, didn't it?
Yeah, right.
Clearly, around the Q2K album, I think that was. But that was always that's what I always just loved about it. I mean, it was my introduction. My introduction to you guys was the Mindcrime record. And I just loved the fact that I was able to listen to something and get absorbed in a story. I mean, looking for the clues and everything else was just icing on the cake, but it was about having something smarter. And I mean, as you know, I've been massive fan for 3 decades now. But it's that to me is what was always stood out for you guys. It was something special. You know, it was just that extra layer of worthiness. You know, Promised Land, still my favorite. I'm gonna wait for you to do that one in its entirety. So when the anniversary comes up. But I think that for me, when you started to hit a stride lyrically with Empire, that I just still resonates today, which was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I know what you mean though. You hear a band or you hear an artist that they spark your intellect. You know, all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, what is he saying, or what are they saying? How did they say that? Oh wow, you know, and it gets you interested. You know, maybe it stands out for some reason, whether it's a melody or the musician's approach to what they're doing, or maybe it's a lyric, you know, but something grabs you, you know, about it and sets you off on a path of discovery. And isn't it great when we discover that this song that we love is one of 100 songs that this artist has written, you know, and you didn't know about them beforehand, but now you can discover all their albums. And isn't that a great thing? I love that.
No, one of the interesting things for me, and I've rediscovered lately, and I don't even think we've talked about this before. I've rediscovered vinyl lately, and I have found that it's just such more of an active listening experience, listening to vinyl, because you're not just throw it on in the background. Like our whole house is wired with digital music. I could walk into any room and tell the wired system, I don't want to say her name, what to play, and she'll play it. But like with the vinyl, it's active. And I feel like you get so much more out of the music when you're listening like that, because you're paying attention and it's part of an active experience. It's not passive in the background while you're cooking dinner. And
you mean because you have to get up and actually change the record?
Yeah, it's like I can't, you don't zone out after 6 songs because you get bored. It's like it just stopped after 4 songs. I gotta go turn the vinyl over.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's
I like the concept of vinyl. I like holding the records, and I like looking at all the artwork and that kind of thing. That the sound, I can't get past the sound.
I love the sound.
Oh yeah,
warmth.
well that's where we have
about
apples and oranges, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, I also like songs about pussy and drugs. Did you have a heavy Prague influence?
Yeah.
Well, I know I don't know. I mean, all right, I'm just gonna shut up and let Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a pretty heavy Prague influence. Yeah, that's my that's where I came out of. You know, I guess they didn't call it Prague then,
right?
You know?
No, it was rock then, right? I mean, What was Genesis when Genesis came out? It wasn't called Prague. I mean, Pink Floyd wasn't Prague when it came out. Now people are like, oh, that's Prague, but
yeah, it wasn't until later generations started labeling everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is convenient, and it works for like all the different music sites now, because you can pull up your genre that you're into and find it, you know.
Right.
But like what we didn't call David Bowie glam, you know.
Yeah. Yep. Izzy, what was Kiss when Kiss came out?
Heavy metal Beatles.
Band.
Metal Beatles.
Oh, please.
Well, that is what Gene Simmons said. So when Gene Simmons says it, you take it for what it is.
My first Kiss album was Destroyer, which was, man, what a cool album that was.
Yeah,
man, that's my Kiss. That band, that album, right?
That album.
Yeah.
Where did Destroyer come up when we did that episode?
I think it won.
It won, right? Yeah,
it won.
Did it?
I think it did, because we did Destroyer versus Rock and Roll Over versus Love Gun.
Yes.
And I think Destroyer won.
Okay.
I think.
Someone.
I'm one of those few people that like The Elder.
That doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
That really doesn't shock me at all. With your the way Queensrÿche is and the way your music is, that does not shock me at all. And that's not a shot. I mean, it's just
I'm a Queensrÿche fan, and I like The Elder. You know what I mean? It's I guarantee you, my wife's favorite Kiss record, Kiss is all the way at the bottom of the list, or not? The Elder's all the way at the bottom of the list. That's just it's. I think it just goes with taste.
I think it's Gene Simmons' bottom of the list album too.
Well, that means I've got something right if I like it more than you said this about Kiss, and it reminded me of we were talking about Kiss. Gene Simmons. Gene's got COVID right now. What goes through your head planning a tour like this? I mean, there's so much uncertainty and everything right now. Is it a whole other level of stress, or are you just kind of like going with the flow, vaccinated, you're going to do your thing, that's it?
Yeah, everybody that is on our tour is vaccinated, and we're heading out to do it. And I'm not stressed at all. I mean, all these shows have been set back and postponed and rescheduled 3 times. Susan, my manager, has just done incredible work putting it all together 3 different times and making it work. It's so frustrating. But after all that stress of cancellations and postponements, finally getting to do it is not stressful at all. I mean, I like doing what I do, and I like playing live. So I'm excited, just excited. I know a lot of tours are canceling, and people are pulling out, and I don't quite understand that. It is, if you haven't been keeping up with it, a lot of people in bands, I think they just kind of took the year off, and maybe they weren't like keeping up with what was going on. But we've been, playing small shows here and there over the year. So we're kind of used to what you have to go through, with all the red tape and the, state by state changing and country by country changing their rules and stuff every few weeks. You get kind of used to it now. So it's not shocking to us. But it is very crazy, the lengths that we've had to go to make something happen with this. For example, Kieran, you mentioned earlier, my guitar player, he and Jack, our bass player, are UK citizens, and they aren't allowed into the United States except for with a proper work permit. But you can't get a work permit, which they always get anyway. You can't get a work permit unless you go to Romania. And you have to wait in line at the embassy in Romania, which takes about a week. Then you get your work permit for the United States, but you can't come into the United States unless you come through Mexico. So you have to quarantine for 2 weeks in Mexico before you come across the border of the United States. Yeah, that's what Kieran and Jack had to do.
You have to go from the UK to get your visa, a work visa. You have to go from the UK to Romania. You get the work visa in Romania. And then from Romania
at the U.S. embassy.
Yeah, at the U.S. embassy. Then you either go back to America or back to the UK or straight to Mexico.
Straight to Mexico without landing anywhere else.
Oh my God.
Oh no, they had to go to what's the Arab country?
Dubai.
Starts with Dubai. They had to go to Dubai. That's the only place that the plane could land.
Then
they had to go to Mexico.
This is more confusing than Prague Times signatures.
This is more confusing than the last Dream Theater record. I don't know.
Yeah. Did they make a new record?
Yeah, they did.
Sure,
they did. They did. One of my favorite memories, like one of my favorite live memories, like backstage on the beginning of the Dream Theater when you did the tour with Dream Theater and Fates Warning.
Yeah,
I'll never forget like the backstage the first day when everyone was trying to figure out what cover songs to do. And it was so funny because it was like it was all the usual suspects you would think when you're coming backstage in that group, because everybody got together that first day and it was like, so we got to do a jam at the end. What songs does everybody know? And it's like, which Pink Floyd is it going to be? Which?
Yeah, that was actually kind of a cool tour, I thought. We did kind of a co-headlining tour with Dream Theater and switched back and forth. Headlining nights, I guess you'd say. And then every night we'd get together at the end of the show and we'd play like a 3 to 6 song cover tune thing, right? And we'd also play each other's music, which was pretty fun. And it was good fun. It was a good tour, I remember. Except for we did some live outside dates where the sound police were there, and it was like so quiet. It was so uninspiring. I don't even understand why they book a show like that, where you can't turn it up,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Decibel thing. It's got to be under like 80 decibels or 90 decibels.
Yeah, I mean that's not rock. I mean, the Amazon trucks, that deliver stuff, and the UPS trucks are louder than our concert.
Yeah. See, Geoff, that's
why can they be loud and we can't?
That's why you only play places that Motorhead would play.
Yeah. What would Lemmy do?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
Start with a line and then have a drink. Maybe in that order. Now you were just overseas, right?
Yeah, I was in Ireland and Germany.
Can you talk about what you were doing there, or is it still a big secret?
No.
Okay.
Not a big secret.
No, so you're working on a new record, right?
Oh yeah, I was working on a new record. Yeah, and really spending time with our friends and family over there, and hiking through the vineyards and checking on the grape harvest. It's a really weird time.
So it was working on a new record in between all the fun stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
well, of course, you got to get your ducks in a row, right?
Or at least your vineyards in a row. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a really weird time now with global warming and problems with harvesting, and also COVID has like decimated the workforce. Like finding people that want to go and pick grapes and tomatoes and harvest stuff, hard to find now. And so that's going to really affect the amount of produce that's in the world market this fall. And man, I don't know what's going to happen. Prices are going to go crazy. It's just a weird time.
Yeah.
It's odd. You'd think it would be easier to find people to work outdoors.
Yeah, nobody wants to work.
Yeah, nobody wants to work. Period. I know in this country, everyone's getting subsidized until Friday, right? I think Friday.
Everybody, most countries are getting subsidized.
Too. Yeah. I think America's subsidies end on the 3rd. So I'm looking forward to being able to get an Uber, like quickly for the first time. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that because I don't use Uber. I'm looking forward to getting a Lyft quickly with that.
What was that? Did I just see the Lyft logo come up on the screen? What is going on?
Exactly. Exactly. So what's the new record? Is the new record a Geoff Tate record? Is it an Operation Mindcrime record? That's what I asked if it was a secret. Oh.
Well, yeah. I don't want to talk about it yet. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because you don't know in today's world
or something. But
in today's world, it might not even see the light of day. You just never know.
That's true.
So
that's a good point. That is an absolutely.
It's better not to talk about it till you have actually the press release, which you'll probably write.
I'll probably write. Hey,
I hope you would.
I specifically said to Susan, "Can I ask it?" She goes, "Yeah, that would probably be a good time to ask about it." And no, okay. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah. Well, we have made some progress. We know now that yes, I'm working on a new album. Yeah. So that's good. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I just did the Sweet Oblivion record with Aldo in Italy, which is a really cool record. That came out in spring. I'm working with Tobias Sammet from Fantasia on a couple tracks for his new album. And then working on my own album as well. So I'm busy.
How does Sweet Oblivion? How'd that come across? How'd that come about?
Well, I have done work with Frontiers Records out of Italy, Italian record label, specializing in hard rock and metal. And
the Frontiers logo just popped up. By the way, it just knocked the Lyft logo away, and the Frontiers logo just popped up.
We should work on that. Interchangeable plugs, Well, anyway, I had some conversations with them about working with other people. I love collaboration. I love working with different artists and different producers and that kind of thing. And they suggested that that guy named Aldo Lenoble, who's an incredible guitar player and great writer, he introduced them to me. And so we started trading ideas back and forth. And before you knew it, we started making music, and it's a really cool album. Really, very cool. Very happy with it.
there's got to be a big difference because especially as a solo artist, when you've got complete control, you're not beholden to anybody for what you write about or how you write it. Is there a different satisfaction writing with other people or working with other people than there is just doing your own thing? Because if it's your own thing,
I like both. I really like both. It's nice to work with other people who have an idea, who just don't come into it expecting you to come up with all the answers. It's kind of a nice break, somebody comes in and go, hey, I got this idea. What do you think if we do this? Blah, 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 blah. And then you start brainstorming, and before you know it, you've got something going on, Whereas I've been in the room before with people and they go, what are we going to do? Well, I don't know. You got any ideas? No. Next.
Sounds like half the interviews I used to do.
Yeah.
And obviously my interviews. Going to the chat room.
What do you do when it happens like that? When you have an interview like that where where the interviewee does not want to speak? Wait, what do you do? Just fill in the blanks yourself?
I had one, and I don't mind saying at this point because I'm actually friends with him. And it was literally everybody always one of the common questions I get asked is what's the worst interview, what's the best and what's the worst? And of course my wife comes home and the dogs are crazy. Hold on. Izzy, talk for a minute. I'm muting.
All right. Perfect time to go to the chat room. Kyle Young Gun says, what's crazy is I forgot about this interview today and I was at the record store and I picked up Operation Mindcrime. Just bam, out of the blue. I love that. Bruce from Canada. Bruce says, one of my favorite comments from a frontman was back in the 80s when Queensrÿche played Edmonton, and Geoff said, I see we're a small in number but strong in spirit. It said it stuck with me 30 years plus on. So there's that. While he's getting quiet over there, I want to bring up the American Soldier record really quick. And the reason I do is because I know the American Soldier, Mr. AJ Fratto, and kind of talk about how that relationship started and how you brought him into that.
How I met AJ?
Yeah, how you met AJ.
Wow, let me think. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I know. I know. I met him because he was part of the Blue Angels.
Yes.
Right. And my daughter Bella went through a phase where she was just fascinated with airplanes and wanted to become a pilot. And it was airplanes every day, airplane this, I want to take rides on airplanes, wanted to, learn how to fly them. Anyway, so I wanted to take her to see the Blue Angels. They're performing over the summer. And we knew somebody that was part of the Blue Angel crew. And they got us in touch with the actual team. And AJ was their guy who met with us and actually brought us out onto the runway and the airstrip, and we got to climb around on the airplanes and check them all out, and we just kind of hit it off, and he became kind of integral to an album that we would do, I guess, a couple of years later, the American Soldier album, and he actually sang on the album with me and toured with us and played a part in the show as well. He was great. He had so much enthusiasm and, man, just a gung-ho character, right?
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, that smile. It's just, you see that smile and you get the bear hug.
Yep.
It's AJ.
And he's always one of those guys that, he says, hey, what's going on? You go, well, it's all going good, except for I have this one problem. You go, well, let's work it out. He's always coming up with ideas on how to fix things or make things better. He's a problem solver. I really like that kind of personality.
Yeah. Well, at what point did you figure out that he could sing? And then, well, fuck it, we should put him on the record.
Well, he played me some of his stuff that he'd done.
Okay.
And it got me thinking, I could use this. I could make this work in the album. So we made him try out for it. We made him work for it. But he did great. He did great.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry that a concept can be too ambitious? Or is that what makes it exciting? I mean, you did American Soldier was one of my, that is the album I tell everybody. And it's obviously not the go-to Queensrÿche record. If you're introducing someone to Queensrÿche, you don't say, hey, go listen to American Soldier. But that is the album I always point out as probably the most under-recognized Queensrÿche album, because I think there's some really amazing moments on there that define what Queensrÿche became coming out of the 80s. And do you ever stop, like as an artist, and I kind of know the answer to this, but do you ever stop and go, that's too heady an idea for some of my audience? I mean, your solo records, when you had the three-part album come out as a solo artist later, do you worry about, am I going to lose people by the third album? You know, what's going to happen? Or you just go, this is what my vision is, and this is what I'm going to deliver.
Yeah, I don't like to underestimate the intelligence of my audience, really. So I just kind of do what feels right, you know, and put it out there. And, you know, some people are going to get it. Some people aren't. It's just the nature of the beast, really. But I disagree. I think that American Soldier is not the most underrated Queensrÿche album. I think the last Queensrÿche album that we did together, Dedicated to Chaos, is very underrated. And that's absolutely one of my favorite ones. And it is partly because everybody in the band at that time was contributing and writing, and there was a real great spirit of camaraderie in the band at the time, which hadn't been there in a while. Mm-hmm. And it was like we were kind of coming back, you know, with enthusiasm, right? And you can really hear it on the record. It's beautifully done. Everybody's performances are stellar, and I think the songwriting is so mature and interesting. And Kelly Gray did an amazing mix. I think it's the best mix I've ever heard him do on that album consistently, you know? So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Interesting. That's interesting.
There's a couple songs on there that are, man, this one called Broken, mm-hmm. that is, I cannot ever listen to the song without crying. And maybe it's because I know the story behind it. I wrote it about my grandmother passing away, and in the room with her at the hospital, she was having a conversation with her husband who had passed away several years earlier. And it was so touching, you know, that they were, at least she thought, I mean, who am I to judge? I don't know what's going on, but they were actually having a conversation. You know, I couldn't hear him, of course, but I heard her and the way she was answering. And it just hit me, right? And I'm just taking notes the whole time, you know, writing this idea down and then later putting it to music. And man, it's a touching song.
I've heard that before about people who when they're on their deathbed, they have conversations with loved ones and for them. And that's not, and I mean, I know of 2 cases in the last couple of years that I've heard of, you know, family members where that's happened. It's crazy.
Well, my grandfather was telling her, come to him. It's time, you know, it's going to be okay. I'll be here for you, you know. Gets me. It's just thinking.
No, it's insane to think about, but it's when that many people have that similar experience. I mean, I don't know, you know, you've got to really wonder what's there.
Yeah, because it happened so much that there must be some truth to it.
There must be, like, is it, and I'm not a science guy. I am not remotely. So if I get this wrong, I'm sure 20 people will jump on me and tell me I had the word wrong. Is it an endorphin rush or something that makes your brain do something? Is it like something your body releases? Or is it something that's spiritual and real? I mean, I don't know. But it's crazy because it happens to a lot of people.
Well, a lot of people in physics are saying now that time, you know, is a track, like, and we're running on several tracks. Like, think of like a recording studio. You know, you record on different tracks and then you play it all together, right? It's kind of like that, and time isn't linear. It's just all continuous. So we can change tracks, and now we're in a different time, right, so to speak. And I think once this becomes like a common belief, I think this will change the way we travel, the way we interact with each other. So much of the concept of time, you got to remember, it was invented by primitive people, right? Thousands of years ago, right? Based upon their perception of the planets and how they move. Okay. Well, we've learned a lot since then, you know? So, I mean, maybe it's time to question some of that stuff and maybe look at it a little different, you know?
Yeah, my mind's blown right now, and I'm totally confused trying to think of time as a circular and
Yeah, all happening at the same time.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All I can think of is those toy racetracks you would have in the 70s with the cars that scoot around and all of a sudden they jump off. I just know I jumped off somewhere and I didn't get back on it.
You can't get back on.
I can't get back on it.
We're reaching for you, Izzy. We're trying to pull you in.
Come back.
Kyle's mad at me because I said mind crime instead of live crime. Live crime, damn it. Mind crime live. Okay, sorry, Kyle. You picked up live crime.
I'm still freaking out on the fact that he went to a record store. Oh, where's that?
Yeah, and he's 24 years old. This makes it even better.
I love it. I love it. Have you now the vinyl, the 30th anniversary, there was a remaster that just came out, right? Did you
Empire.
have any, what?
Of Empire.
Of Empire, yes.
Yeah.
Did you have any? It was remastered, correct?
Remastered. It's a whole different packaging. It's got excerpts and it's got all kinds of stuff. Although I have not received my copy yet. Just want to make that clear.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, look, I
know a lot of people watch your show, so I just want to make that clear. You know,
that was that was a great sounding record. Do you think it needed to be remastered?
Well, you know, we've come a long ways in 30 years, audio wise. And honestly, I think that the bass frequencies are so much better nowadays than they were back then. And, you know, the analog or is it analog to digital converters we have now are light years ahead of where we were in 1990. And if you listen to Mindcrime, for example, that came out in 88. That was one of the first 5 digital albums ever made. The first one of the first 5.
I did not know that.
And remember at the time when we released that, everybody at the record company was freaking out when we handed it to them because they were going, "Oh my God, it hurts. It hurts." You know, they weren't used to hearing sound like that.
Not what you want your record label to say when they get a record.
It was horrible. I was standing in the room, we're playing our music, you know, for the execs, you know, to get the A-OK, right? And they're all going, trying not to be obvious. Yeah. We had to remaster it.
Well, you
remastered it.
Just Geoff, really quick, you talk about that being in the room playing it for him, getting the okay. What was the record company's initial thoughts on the album?
Oh, you know, I think they were just trying to understand what it was we were doing because we were making a concept record and people hadn't made concept records in a long time. And how does that relate to the modern world? You know, because the last concept album came out like maybe in the late 70s or something like that. And so they were questioning, you know, should we be doing that? But it was too late. We'd already spent the money and already made the record.
Right.
And so then after that conversation happened, then they decided, well, how are we going to market it? And they came up with one real interesting idea, was to market it, taking the album, or excuse me, the song Sweet Sister Mary, which is like a 10-minute song. And they wanted to cut it up into edited singles. And release it.
You released the song 3 times.
One in 1 month, you know, the other one several months later, you know, and the third one later, you know. Wow. There were so many songs that could be singles on that record. We said, look, why butcher that one up? You know, just let it be what it's going to be. You know, what it's, you know, what we envisioned it to be. Let it be what it is, and use these other songs, you know, that are more radio length.
Yeah.
You know.
I consider myself somewhat of a kind of authority when it comes to history of Queensrÿche and stuff. And on Shiprocked, when you did one of your acoustic, it was with Bumblefoot, I believe. You did one of your acoustic performances there. You told a story that I really, and I'm sure you've told it a million times, I just didn't know it, about basically what a slow build Mindcrime was.
Yeah.
Ironically, because I don't really, and I know you were, but I don't think of you as, how instrumental MTV became to breaking that record. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think of Queensrÿche and going back, like it's Thinking Man's metal, you know, Prague Roots, all this stuff. I don't think of Queensrÿche as your stereotypical MTV band, but MTV broke you guys.
Yeah. Well, they started with us in, we started with them in 1983 with the Queen of the Reich video. And that got a lot of airplay on MTV at the time. And then we kept following with, you know, different videos for each album. I think Take Hold of the Flame off The Warning was our next one. And then we did Gonna Get Close to You off Rage for Order. And then Mindcrime hit. And we made this series of videos with Mark Wachowski, I think his name was, the director, sort of telling the story through video. And that seemed to hit really well. And Eyes of a Stranger was, of course, a kind of a staple on MTV for a short bit, you know. But it really wasn't until 1990 when Empire came out and Lucidity was like all over the place. Every 20 minutes, I think they played that song.
It's not a bad thing.
Blew up, you know.
Yeah. Now you're lucky to hear music. Now you're lucky to hear music on MTV. It's just not there.
Yeah.
How did you guys end up on? Oh, go ahead.
No, I forgot what I was going to say. So go ahead, Izzy.
How did you guys end up on the Ford Fairlane soundtrack? And what were your thoughts after you saw the movie? Or did you see the movie?
No, I never have seen the movie. No.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Because the best part of the movie,
all I know is they paid us an obscene amount of money. So happy about that.
Was that
you know why they paid you an obscene amount of money? Because the best part of the movie was Last Time in Paris. That was what.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I love that movie. Was Last Time in the Paris, was that left over from something, or is that something you guys wrote for the soundtrack?
No, we have all kinds of songs. In fact, when we this is kind of a weird story, but a lot of our music was recorded on analog tape, you know, and after so many years, the analog tape starts falling apart because it's magnetized or something, right?
Yeah.
And so it becomes unusable. So you have these master tapes and you can't use them for anything, right? So there's a technique called baking where you actually put them in an oven and you bake them to a certain temperature, and it hardens up all the magnetic pieces. And then you play it and you digitally record all the tracks at that moment. So then you can get rid of the analog and you have the digital copy, right? So we were doing that with our albums, and we found all these tracks that we had written and forgot about and never finished. And what was weird was none of us in the band remember these tracks. And we're playing them, listening, and there we are playing away. I'm singing, you know, Chris is playing guitar, Michael's playing guitar, Eddie's playing bass, Scott's playing drums, but none of us have no memory of the songs, right? And they're all unreleased, you know, just sitting there.
Yeah.
So who's got those now? I mean,
I'd have no idea.
Wow.
I have no idea.
Like, is there a record label? I would imagine if there was a vault sitting there somewhere, they'd show up on re-releases or something, but.
Well, everything that was in the vault is gone now because it all fell apart, you know. We made copies of it and then it, you know.
Right.
So yeah, it's all gone.
Oh, so none of that.
There's a digital copy of it. We have digital copies of it. I just don't have one myself. Right?
Wow. Interesting.
Somebody in the band must have copies of that stuff. I don't.
Yeah. So going back because we're kind of still on it. Going back to the Empire remaster that you're working that for the 30th anniversary. Were you instrumental in that, or was that something that was done without? Did you have a say? Did the band get back together at all and have input, or was it really just the label going and saying, "Hey, we have an idea"?
Well, as far as I know, they definitely talked to me about it, and we've been talking with them about it for a couple of years now. And they sent over all the different things they wanted to do, and we okayed, you know, stuff. I don't know if anybody else in the band did that too,
right?
Because we don't talk, so we don't communicate at all,
except for lawyers.
Yeah, so that's all a thing of the past. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody at the record label talked to anybody else in the band but me. but I signed off what I liked.
You had input in it though. That was cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's definitely though because I haven't heard it yet. I haven't gone and it's on my list of vinyl to acquire.
Well, really, it's so similar. I think the bottom end response is better. The packaging is quite different because I cut out all those other guys and it's just me, my face on the album. So
everywhere anything else appears, it's just Geoff.
Yeah, I just kind of blurred them all out,
Oh no, that I have a funny feeling this one's gonna come back to haunt us.
Not really. Come on.
It's so funny because like 20 years ago, you do an interview and you and I sit somewhere, we do an interview, we talk for 45 minutes, an hour about the new album, whatever. And I have a tape and I know anything can get cut out at any given moment. It's all fine. Now, everything we say, we go, oh, how's that going to come back to bite us in the ass? Oh, it's just this fear of doing interviews in the year 2021.
The Empire tour, that was the first time I saw Queensrÿche, and I'm not gonna lie, I went to see Suicidal. How did a band like Suicidal Tendencies end up being the opening band for that tour? Because it just didn't seem like it seemed like an odd combination.
Oh, it was very odd. Yeah, very strange. Yeah, I don't know. I think they paid us a lot of money or something. I honestly don't know. Yeah. Maybe Q Prime management had something to do with it. Maybe they were managing that band at the time. I honestly don't know. I never heard of the band until they played the first show with us.
What were your thoughts when you heard them?
I don't even remember. Yeah, they didn't really. Well, they didn't really strike me as. Yeah, I don't know. They didn't leave an impression. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I know they've gone on and done fantastic things, and they have a huge audience, and that's great. Personally, I just didn't, pay attention.
Yeah, it's not your thing. Yeah. Like for one, I was obviously going to see Queensrÿche, but my favorite tour of all time, period, was Promised Land with Typo Negative opening. I mean, that was.
Oh yeah, Typo Negative. Yeah.
Those are like the two great tastes that taste great together. I mean, it was just like Typo and Queensrÿche for me was the perfect tour. I was like, ah.
Do you remember that band, The Tea Party?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, they opened up for us on that tour as well.
Canadian?
What?
Tea Party Canadian?
You froze.
Oh, we're the Tea Party Canadian?
I don't know. Not into flags. I can't remember.
I didn't know if Izzy knew who they were either.
No.
Okay.
No, my Canadian my Canadian rock and roll goes to Killer Dwarfs and Bryan Adams, and that's about it. And Doucette.
What about Rush?
I can't count past Peter Criss.
Oh God.
What about Triumph?
Triumph?
They sound like Poppy Rush.
Oh.
Wow. But
personal taste.
But you like 80s Kiss, so there's no accounting for taste.
Yes, I do. I love 80s Kiss.
But also at the same time, you love Jeff's Rage for Order hair.
Yes, absolutely.
Who doesn't?
I was confessional. If we're in the confessional, I was more the Empire haircut where I had the ponytail and then the shaved sides on the back. That was my so in the restraining orders of people doing interviews, you want a restraining order against Rage for Order Izzy and restraining order against Empire Paul. That's what it is. The next time you're on the show, we're both going to shave our heads. That's gonna be
no, absolutely not.
It'll change your life.
Gosh, let me tell you, just COVID, growing my hair back during COVID has been I'm like, I miss having short hair, but I'm also you get to this age where you're never doing this again. So now I don't want to cut it because I'm like, I'm never going to invest in that awkward year of growing my hair out again. So let's just see how long I can go.
I know every now and then I get all inspired. I go, oh yeah, I'm just going to grow my hair out. And then I get like a couple weeks into it. No way.
No way.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, And it's when you get to the point, when you get to the age where your facial hair is growing faster than your head hair, you're just like, it's all uncomfortable at that point. Just like, God, I give up.
Yeah, it's like I joked on Twitter the other day. It's like I'm at the age now when I pick my nose and pulling out more hair than boogers.
Oh God! Did you come up with that yourself? Is that from the stand-up?
I did come up with that myself. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's good. All right, I'll give you. Hey, they can't all.
A for
effort.
A for effort.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was fun.
What, Geoff, is the tour going to be? So we know Rage for Order in its entirety, which is going to be amazing. Empire in its entirety, which is going to be amazing. Is there going to be anything else, or is it those two albums and that is it? Is it you show up, you hear one, then the other, or are there going to be hits and B-sides scattered in there?
Is that not enough, Paul, for you? Is that not enough?
I'm just curious.
Should I just rip my heart out on the stage too?
No, I don't know. Like, are you going to launch like right into one of the albums and just that's the journey?
No, maybe we'll just tack on the Warning album as well.
All right. Well, if I have that, then why don't we do? Izzy wants to hear American Soldier. I want to hear Promised Land.
Yeah.
But that is it then. That you're doing those two albums. It's going to be those two albums.
We're doing those two albums. Yeah, if the audience wants an encore, we are prepared to play other things.
Okay.
So yeah, and we do take requests
from the elder. Other things from the elder.
I tell you what. You're talking about weren't you talking about like the most embarrassing questions you get asked?
Oh well, previously?
Then Rika came home, and then like
the dog started barking. Where you were asking me about when you do an interview and someone doesn't give you an answer, and they're just like,
right.
I was gonna say people ask me what was the worst interview you've ever done, and I'm like, I could say this because we're friends, but when I interviewed Fred Curry, well, he was in a band called Arcade, a side project. And I literally hung up the phone after about 8 minutes. I was like, you've clearly got better things to do. And I clearly can't waste any more of my time. So goodbye. That was it. And I hung up the phone. I mean, it was literally painful. And it's not like I don't know how to do an interview. I mean, I was in college at the time, so I hadn't been doing it for 30 years. But it was just, you had your questions and you're asking them. Yeah, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Like, well, whatever. It happens every once in a while. And it's not always the artist, because Fred's amazing. Sometimes someone you don't know what happened 5 minutes before your interview. You don't know what's going on in your life. It's like sometimes you just don't feel like doing an interview, and it's the shitty part of your job that you have to log on to Zoom at 5:00 and sit with Paul and Izzy. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, see, that I would have a hard time believing that with you, especially because you are an in-depth journalist who takes it seriously, and you do your homework. You know probably more about him than he does. Right. Other interviews I've done, they don't know who you are or what you do. This has happened to me 10 or 15 times. People say, I get into the interview and they say, God, how did you deal with your debut album, Operation Mindcrime, doing so well out of the gate? And I'll go, my debut album, have you ever heard my music? And they'll say, yeah, I have both your albums.
Oh no. Here's the problem. I was having a discussion with someone the other day. Back when Mindcrime came out, back when I was interviewing Fred Curry for Arcade, there was no internet. So it wasn't like you could just go to Wikipedia and see Geoff Tate's entire career discography.
Yeah.
And know, okay, like you could research for an interview now, as long as you can read and use the web, you can do 5 minutes and be able to do an interview with somebody if you know what you're doing. Like back then, it was all about press releases. You had to research like a real journalist back then.
Yeah. You had notes that you referred to,
Yeah. And it's like, you needed the good interviews got service to every writer, because that was how they learned about the band before they went into their interview. And it's just, I have at this day at my parents' house in Connecticut, there's file cabinets filled with press clippings, because I would save everything from, Queensrÿche, Bon Jovi, whatever, Metallica, because I knew I need to reference these. Oh, there's something good there. I just highlighted it and shoved it in a folder. So if I talked to James Hetfield, I could ask him about that one thing I read somewhere. And you don't do that today. Today, it's just go to Wikipedia. And that's what makes it even more embarrassing. If I got in a situation like that, I would probably just hang up on people like that and maybe fire my publicist like that in no particular order. Maybe fire the publicist while you're doing the interview just to prove a point.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I have a hard time dealing with that kind of thing. But on the other hand, not everybody's as smart as some people. I mean, you got to give people a little break now and then. So I sort of looked at it as each time it happens to me, it's very sobering. Because you think, oh, you're all that in a bag of chips, and then you get just brought down heavy by somebody who's no idea who you are, what you do, or really, you have 22 albums?
Oh,
how come I've never heard of you? Well, we do most of our work overseas.
I'm huge in Romania.
Huge in Romania when you're waiting for you're waiting for your visa. Well, it's tough, but it's also the changing. I mean, I don't think I had to, Izzy and I both, for that matter, trained to be journalists. It wasn't something that you just decided, I'm going to start a blog, I'm going to start a website, I'm going to start a podcast. It was like, we actually, whether it was radio or newspaper, whatever we did, we went to school and trained to do that. And you don't have to do that today. That's another difference. It's the playing.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Your thoughts on Charlie Watts passing?
Horrible.
Are you connected to him at all, or the Stones?
No. But I mean, I saw the Stones in '89. But I mean, as a musician, what he did and what he didn't do, most importantly, he just laid back and he just created the groove. He didn't overplay. He was just there. And it was amazing. And it was beautiful. And that's what I loved about Charlie Watts. And that was part of that Stone sound that I love, is just keep it simple and let's fucking blues it up. It's sad. I mean, he was 80. It's coming for all of us at some point. It's just weird that he's the first one of this generation of Stones, because obviously, Brian Jones, way back in the day. But it's weird that he's the one. It's like, I didn't think that he would have been the one. The joke's always that Keith and Betty White are going to repopulate the world after we're all gone. But everybody would think that Keith would be the one that would win, and it was Charlie. It's just odd.
Yeah, I was never a ginormous Rolling Stones fan. I respect them, but I was never obsessed with them. The big thing for me is just, we're at a point now where we're going to start losing people. And every time someone goes, it's just a constant, for me, it's a constant reminder that, man, we need to appreciate the art and the artists we have, because it's not going to be here forever. And I'm like, the Rolling Stones are a great example. Like, any band that comes to town that I want to see, I'll trample old ladies to get to that show if I want to go to it, because you don't know, God forbid, when something's going to happen. We're all at that age where it's just, you don't know when you're not going to be able to see an artist again. And it's that to me is like the legends. Andy Gold, who was on our show last week, Andy and I were talking about this the other day. You don't, like, especially in this next decade, I mean, what is the likelihood, not to be morbid, I think Andy said it on the show, what's the likelihood that Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney last the decade?
Right.
We're just getting to that point now where we're losing legends, and some of them aren't healthy. Other ones, like, nobody knew, like Rika, my wife says, with Tom Petty, we passed on going to that Tom Petty show. And it was the last Tom Petty show ever. He died 3 days later. It's like, you don't know. And I think what really scares me to make a long answer even longer, Charlie Watts, it's not as much about Charlie Watts for me as it is what Charlie Watts represents, because again, there's bands that mean a lot more to me. Queensrÿche means infinitely more to me than the Rolling Stones do. But what Charlie Watts' passing tells me is that legends don't last forever, and we need to appreciate music. And there just aren't enough people, especially the younger generations. That's what's amazing for me, seeing like you play with Kieran. Like Kieran could be my kid. And like Kieran, he is an amazing guitar player, and he's up there and he's living the life. He looks amazing. It's like, that's what it's like, seeing a younger generation get into play with you and get into music is inspiring to me, because it's not going to be here forever. I mean, it's just, there's this whole, it's all going away, and how do we stay alive? And it's just part of the reason why doing stuff with Metal Edge again has become important to me, because it's, you know, this younger generation, music doesn't mean the same thing. It's something that sits on in the background. It's something that you tell Alexa to play for you. It's something that you have on your earphone on your phone. But it's like, that's what I love vinyl for. It's just, it's a completely different experience. And Charlie Watts kind of represents that for me.
You know, Geoff,
he was, for me, he was the benchmark. You know, the Stones really represent the benchmark of what you can achieve and what you have to look forward to, in a sense, as a musician. As long as they're still doing it, I can do it. You know, and a lot of guys my age, that was kind of the I don't know, sort of the mantra, you know, that you would recite. You know, if Keith's doing it, I can do it. You know, and he's, you know, 80. You know, and so with Charlie passing, it's like, man, it's like you start seeing your own mortality on the horizon, you know. And so it was a sobering experience for me. I actually started looking at my life very carefully, you know, when I heard that news, and making sure I got on that treadmill every day, and make sure I went outside and hiked up the mountain, you know, several times a week to keep myself, so at least I can make it to 80. You know, I want to get that far. I want to keep doing this as long as I possibly can. And I'm sad to see him go. To me, the Rolling Stones were the greatest rock and roll band in the world. And I'm devastated by it, you know.
It's funny that you brought that up. You must have intuition or something like that, because not about Charlie, but Scotty from Canada. Hold on, we got to play his gimmick. He goes, sorry, I got here late. Has anyone asked what it was like to be part of the Hearing Aid? Still have his voice in that.
Hearing Aid.
I know what it's like to wear them.
Right. Because Deal was part of that, right?
Sorry?
Deal was part of Hearing Aid, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. How did you get involved with that? What was it like? And what was your relationship like with Ronnie? Well, Ronnie called me and asked me to do it. And we had met, somehow we got on Ronnie's tour. He was the first headliner to ask us to be part of his tour. I think I'm going to say it was 83, 84, somewhere around there. Our first tour of Europe actually was with Ronnie, and got to know him very well. He was such a gentleman and a huge supporter of Queensrÿche at that time. And so when the tour ended up, he was putting together the Hearing Aid project, and he called and asked me to be part of it, which of course I did. And what a interesting project that is. And still to this day, every tour I go on, I sign autographs on that record. And it's interesting seeing fans collect that record and collect everybody's signature on it, you know, and we're all trying to not write on each other's face. Yeah.
What's the most signatures you've seen on that album? You say someone trying to collect all of them. I mean,
I've seen ones with all of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Creatively, it's funny watching all the different artists, because there are a lot of people on that record, right? Watching them try not to write on each other's faces, you know, and changing their signature just so, you know, I mean, even, you know, Kevin DuBrow, rest in peace, and Yngwie, you know, people still didn't write over their faces. Cool.
Well, how big is Yngwie's face on that cover? I'm not sure.
It's one side. It's a vinyl.
Yeah.
No, he's all right. Yngwie's cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
What were your thoughts when Eddie died?
Eddie Van Halen. Well, that was kind of a shock too. I never knew him, never met him, and wasn't a huge Van Halen music fan. So I didn't have an emotional connection to it. Although I have nothing but respect for his musician abilities and what he did with his talent. He's an amazingly talented guitar player. Yeah, it's a tragedy. You know, when anybody goes early, it's a tragedy, really. You know, Dimebag Darrell.
Yeah. Well,
wow, that was, who saw that one coming?
Yeah, right. Well, okay. How about on a happier note? You talked about.
To say, God.
Talk about you.
We want to start talking about old pets while we're at it.
Yeah, right. You talked about Kiss Destroyer. You guys. Let's talk about the song "Broken" again.
We
talked about Kiss Destroyer earlier. You guys got to open for Kiss on the Animalize tour. Being a Kiss fan at some point, what was that call like, and what was that tour like?
It's in my book. You can read all about it. It was amazing. It was an amazing tour. The whole band was incredibly cool to us and nice. And, you know, they gave us the whole stage to work with, which was huge. That's a huge sign of confidence in a band, where they say, yeah, have as much sound as you want, have as many lights as you want, you know, go over wherever you want, go ahead, the stage is yours. They weren't worried, you know, they knew who they were.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the high points of the tour for me was the fact that they had this it was a stage set up, like this appendage that hooked onto the front of the stage. And so it took a normal stage that's like 6 feet high, and it sloped down like at an angle about like this, right, down to the ground level, so that when you went from down to the edge of it, the downstage edge, you were face to face with the fans, and you were very close. There was a small barricade, and that was it, right? And that was the idea, to get the band close to the fans and that kind of thing. But it was like the most, you know, try standing on an angle like this and performing. It's really tough. And in platform shoes, you know, and leather soles, you know, man, it was like every night was a train wreck. Somebody fell down every night, you know. It was so difficult to play like that, but it was a real treat, because we're playing, you know, big arenas everywhere. And it was a fantastic tour. Absolutely fantastic.
Do you have any good Gene stories?
Yeah, not ones I'm comfortable sharing.
Oh, okay. All right. Very well.
You know, Gene has always been a perfect gentleman to me, and we've got along very well. And I know people give him a rough time all the time, but he's just a unique individual. He really is. And I have nothing but respect for him and Paul Stanley as well. Paul Stanley, his dancing has changed my life.
I was about to say, it inspired you, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was an inspiration for the Operation Mindcrime album.
Man, it was a thing of beauty. That guy was a great performer. Probably still is. I haven't seen him in many years.
Still is. No, that's. You know what? I've had nothing but. I've had. If you work with Gene, I've worked with Gene before, so we've all had our negative stories. But in the end, I've got nothing but honestly good things to say about the guy. I mean, he is who he is, and there would be no Kiss without him. I mean, I love Paul. Paul's my favorite member of Kiss, but there would be no Kiss without Gene, and that's just plain and simple. He's an icon.
I think without both of them, you wouldn't have a band. I mean, they are like yin and yang. You know, they're made for each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as they've proven, there can be Kiss without Ace and Peter. So
yeah.
But no, I feel the same way about Gene. I mean, Gene's just, I could tell stories that he probably wouldn't mind having be told, but at the end of the day, I mean, he is who he is. It's part of his personality.
Yep.
You know, it was an honor.
There's a lot of interesting personalities in the rock and roll world. A lot of interesting people. It draws people like that, you know, into it for various reasons, I guess. But there's being in Queensrÿche for so many years. I think we were one of the longest opening acts ever. You know, we opened for everybody for more years than we headlined, you know. And it was when people say, oh yeah, you guys used to play arenas. Yeah, we played arenas with other bands.
Yeah.
We only had one arena tour, and that was, you know, a very small tour with the Empire album. But mostly we opened up for other bands, and it was great because you got to experience the other band's scene, you know, what was going on with them and how they did things. And you learned as you went along what to do, what not to do. And you also got exposed to their audience, you know, so it helped you create an audience of your own, you know.
Right.
So this is great.
Well,
So-
what was it like getting in front of that Metallica audience when you guys did the Justice tour?
Oh, it was frightening. Yeah. That was a level of fandom that I'd never ever experienced.
I remember seeing you guys open, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Hershey Lake Compounds in Connecticut. If I'm not,
Sounds like a prison.
yeah, it was an amusement park actually, but I think that was the show. I could be wrong. It might not have been that. It's kind of a blur, like the dates are blurs, but I saw you open for them. And the one thing I recall vividly is that you were the only person on stage all day in white. You had like a white shirt on, and everybody else was in black everywhere, all black everywhere. And you're in the white shirt. You're like a white dress shirt on. You're like, it was like, I remember that.
Yeah, that was a short-lived wardrobe situation because Metallica fans have really good aim, and that was like a target, you know, wearing the white, you know. So I quickly learned that you don't do that.
You don't wear white in front of Metallica fans. You don't wear white in front of Metallica fans or at a Gore concert. Those are the two rules.
Yeah, because they can't help themselves.
But
Gore can't help it. They have to make it messy, you know, wherever they go.
You did Promised Land. Promised Land was an arena tour, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I saw it at the Dane County Coliseum.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, I remember it was arena. So that was you had Empire and okay. And what was
we did
Now Frontier?
Empire, Promised Land, and then Here in the Now Frontier, the shortest tour ever we did on that album. Yeah,
I remember that was Amphitheater. I think that was a summer tour, right?
That was like 4 weeks of touring. Yeah, it was really short.
Really short. Okay.
Because the record company went out of business.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's right when EMI crashed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I never really looked at it that way. But yeah, you did. You put your time in on the. Did you learn something? Was there a particular tour where you go, I learned something on that tour. I learned something opening for that band that you took with you for the rest of your career?
Yeah. There's a lot of lessons learned. But speaking of headlining, when we did the short tour on Here in the Now Frontier, we invested pretty much all of our savings into this stage show for the tour. And it was outdoor, you know, amphitheaters, big stages. And we had this gigantic ear. It was an inflatable ear. And it had some kind of thing to do with the album title, Ear of the Now Frontier. I don't know. Anyway, on the album, there was a jar full of ears. Anyway, we decided to have this gigantic inflatable ear, which was about 20 feet long and about 15 feet high. And when we got to the first show to rehearse, you know, there it was in the center of the stage. And it looked like a scrotum. Because it was laying on its side and it hadn't been painted yet, you know. It looked like a giant scrotum. And I had one of those moments, you know, with like Spinal Tap moment.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to remember back to the conversation with the designer. Did I say ear or scrotum?
It's your Stonehenge moment.
Yeah, it really was.
Oh, that's funny. This is
Yeah.
related but not related. It's related because you talked about the Here in the Now Frontier cover, which reminded me of a question I wanted to ask you. And this might be the most anticlimactic question ever. What is the inspiration behind the Empire album cover? Is there a story behind that? It's a very basic cover.
I know,
especially by Queensrÿche standards. Like there's like it's the like what is the inspiration behind? Like I don't think I've ever read like is there a story behind that cover?
Well, we had used all of our ideas on the music.
You had used all your ideas on the albums that didn't come out yet. So yeah.
We left nothing for the cover. No, there was nothing left. We gave it all on the you know? I don't know. It was it didn't really have a striking cover at all. You know, I remember around that time there was talk about trying to make it look like something sleek and kind of like an emblem like you'd see on the front of a car or something like that, like the Chrysler emblem or something like that. It never struck me as being something phenomenal. It wasn't like Mindcrime or Here in the Now Frontier or even American Soldier. All the ones we had designed by Hugh Syme, who worked with us. He was brilliant to work with. It was just sort of a Madison Avenue corporate looking kind of thing, you know.
Okay, to go with Empire.
I guess so. Yeah,
that was interesting because I never really and then you followed it up with Promised Land, which is one of my favorite album covers. I think that is my favorite album cover of yours. But
that was taking that emblem to a different way, a different place altogether, right?
What was the over-under on Paul's mentions of Promised Land? Have I hit it yet?
No.
I said, was there an over-under on how many times I would mention Promised Land in this interview? I've mentioned it a lot.
Well, you said 10. You said 10, and I thought that was a high number.
So far,
it's like 5.
I actually have a question about that because I did see that tour as well. And I noticed that you guys got even more theatrical on that tour by bringing fans up on stage, like in this nightclub scene. Was there any point where you're like, maybe we're going a little bit too far with this, or
no,
not at all? I don't know. It was just a question. I don't know.
You mean like creating a nightclub on the stage where the band played on the tiny little stage, dressed in like 1970s suits. And I was standing at the bar with the bartender serving drinks, and there were like tables in between us.
Yes.
Being over the top.
Yes.
Maybe.
A little bit more Paul Gargano trivia. I was the photographer on stage at the Dane County Coliseum show that shot you on stage when you got torn up. Yeah, that was me. I was on stage that show.
Oh, where they tore my clothes off?
Where they tear your clothes off. Yeah, I was the photographer on stage. Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the show. Standing in my underwear.
Getting photographed by me in your underwear.
Yeah, that was a crazy tour. What was kind of cool about that nightclub scene that you're talking about was that it became kind of a thing where we never knew what was going to happen during that scene, because of course we had our security people talk to the fans who were coming up there, you know, that they had to behave themselves, and that this was a show, and to be part of it, you know, you had to kind of play along.
Yeah. But
people would just get up and start dancing. They'd get up and start doing poetry readings. They had, you know, guys were, proposing marriage to their fiancés, you know, on their knees on the stage, you know, during the song. You know, it became like a performance art piece, right? That was actually quite comical, and we filmed it. We filmed a lot of it, and that's film is somewhere. I'm not sure where it ended up, but
I want to see that film. Just like I want to hear the songs that have hidden that we can't find.
The hidden songs.
Sounds like a project. Sounds like a project. Sounds like a project. Archivist. All right. Were there any challenges? We can wrap up. We won't keep you all night here. Were there any songs that were particular? You said you wanted to do Rage for Order. Was there any? And have you played most of Empire at this point? Right? I don't think there's. Is there anything you haven't played off Empire yet?
No, we played the whole album. Yeah,
you've done that. Like, was there anything from Rage going back to that record? Because there's stuff off that I'm sure you haven't played in a day or two. Was there anything like revisiting?
Oh, you mean like getting ready for this tour?
Yeah, where you're just like, God, haven't just something that just you haven't dusted off in forever. That was just like a learning curve going back.
Oh yeah. There was actually quite a few songs that were that I hadn't played before, or some songs I hadn't played since 1986 when the album came out, and we opened up for AC/DC with that album. Can you imagine that? We played with AC/DC on a full tour across America playing Rage for Order. Unbelievable. Talk about an opening act that didn't fit the main headliner.
Yeah, right.
And did you come on? Were you in full getup when you'd come on stage?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We were like one of the first people to ever use electronic kits, a drum kit live. And we had this gigantic electric drum kit with all these like tubes with smoke and flames coming out of them. And it was like, it looked like an industrial takeover, you know, some kind of like dark Blade Runner dream or something. It was cool. It didn't fit, you know, a whole lot of Rosie.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. It was like steampunk before steampunk.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it was that's crazy.
So the tour starts just in a couple days. What's the first date? Where is the first date?
I don't know exactly, but I know it's in Massachusetts somewhere.
Yes, it's Worcester.
I think Worcester, Massachusetts. Yeah.
All right, and then you're out. God, I know you've got dates past Thanksgiving at this point, right? I mean, you're
oh yeah.
You've got dates in America going straight out to the new year.
I'm booked until 2023 right now.
Wow.
Whew. Yeah.
God damn.
Fun, huh?
Yeah, but you like that. I was telling Susan the other day, and I mean this in the best way possible. And I've been told you're not supposed to use this word anymore, but it's like it's kind of like a gypsy existence. Your art just goes on the road, and your family's involved with it, and it's like you guys are like a traveling family of artists at this point, and it's kind of special to like experience it. I really do think so, because you're last of a dying breed, and I really appreciate that.
Was the word you're not supposed to use gypsy?
Gypsy, yes. Gypsy. Okay. I've been told, Rika told me I'm not allowed to use that word anymore.
What would you use?
I don't know. I didn't know it was an insult. There's so many words apparently we're not supposed to use anymore.
Maybe nomadic, like a nomad instead of gypsy, you say nomad.
Yeah, apparently it's considered an insult to some group of people,
some ethnic group.
I
was freaking out. Because I thought you were going to use the N word.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Nice.
Can I say that?
Nice.
Nickelback?
Nice.
Oh God. All right. Let's wrap this up. I'm gonna hit the outro music really quick. Here we go. Geoff Tate.
Can we hear that Canadian guy again one more time?
Hold on. Here we go. Hold on, I can get it. Oh, it never gets old. Check out Geoff Tate on tour through 2023, the Empire 30th anniversary. Get that on vinyl, because we all love our vinyl. Geoff Tate, thank you again, man. It was a pleasure. We've never had a conversation before. Actually, once backstage at the Myth, I said, "Would you sign my man boob?" Because that's where I had my backstage pass, and you went, "Ugh." But that's the only time I've met you. So
did I sign it?
Yeah, of course.
And then security opened the door with Izzy's head, and that explains a lot of his questions.
Yeah, there you go. No, it was fun. This is great. Paul Gargano, hit him up at Metal Edge Magazine and at Paul Gargano. My name is Izzy Presley. On the behalf of Geoff Tate and Paul Gargano, again, my name is Izzy Presley. Listening to this, actually, it's ironic, Geoff. My outro music is from the Animalized tour, the end of Black Diamond. So it's actually kind of perfect.
You know what? I got to say something before we go off.
Yeah.
I got to say happy anniversary to my wife, because today is our 13th wedding anniversary. I should be having dinner with her, but I'm hanging out with you two instead. So
there you go. Well, merry anniversary, and we'll see you guys next week. We not only have Danko Jones, we have Junkyard, and they are world premiering their brand new song called Lifer right here on another fucking podcast. Boom.